Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another video. Sorry. Today, as you can see on the screen, we're going to be reviewing Austin Powers: The Spy You Shagged Me. Do have notes on my phone. As I watch the video, I do take notes, and it makes it a lot easier. I've watched these movies probably hundreds of times, but it still makes it just a little bit easier. Okay, so this movie opens up. We do get the Star Wars opening where the words are scrolling up and into space. um we see Dr. Evil's big boy spaceship launching an egg-shaped object which has Dr. Evil, and it gets down to earth. The next scene, we see Austin Powers and Vanessa from the first movie just finished having sex. But further on in this little clip that they show, Vanessa turns out to be a fembot, and she attacks Austin Powers. And right before she explodes, we do hear Doctor Evil's voice coming out of her, saying he has a surprise for Austin, and then she explodes. Uh, After all this happened, Austin obviously gets sad because he was in love with Vanessa. Um, but then a few short seconds later, he's like, "Oh wait, I'm single again." And then we do get this Austin Powers, dance number that almost every movie, well, actually, all three movies have. Uh, we get the really just hip hoppy music, um, and this is where Austin walks through the hotel completely naked, but in all this opening scene with the music and stuff, it covers his butt and his junk. After all this opening scene, um, we do get the army looking at different, what I mean, different videos of terrorists or things that are suspect, and then we get this one video where the guy's watching the Jerry Springer show, and it has like an Autsin and uh, one a member of the KKK, and then we see Scott come out, and then uh, Jerry Springer is like, "Oh yeah, we hear you don't like your dad," and Scott's like, "Yeah, my dad's frozen in space," and then Jerry's like, "Oh, but we have a surprise for you," and then Doctor Evil comes out, and then the other dads and the kids start making fun of Doctor Evil and how he looks and how he talks, and it starts a big fight. Uh, Between Doctor Evil and the dad from the KKK. He steals his hood, and then after the breakup, Jerry says something, and then Jerry Springer and Doctor Evil get in a fight, and Jerry Springer bites him, and blah blah blah. After that, the next scene, we get Austin receiving an email uh, saying he has a new assignment, which is a photo shoot. Uh, and turns out the photo shoot is with two models. Here is where we meet the one of the ladies in the movie with the typical really sexual name. Her name's Ivana, and her full name's Ivana Humpalot. We now go to Doctor Evil's secret lair. Austin does his photo shoot and stuff. Blah blah blah. We go to Doctor Evil's secret lair here, which is in the Seattle Space Needle, and it's also you just see a giant branded Starbucks sign. Number two, um, here's where we get our first glimpse of holy moly, Mini Me, where we learn that in an attempt to clone Doctor Evil, they did, but it's just a mini version of him. Um, so Doctor Evil here decides that his plan is to go back in the '60s when Austin is frozen and steal his mojo. And yeah, that scene's over there. We go to the next scene where It's Austin Powers, and he's in Ivana's room, and they play a very weird, very sexual game of chess. And then Ivana breaks, and she's like, "Oh, Doctor Evil sent me here to kill you, but uh, I'm so attracted to you." And then they go to bed. They have sex. But right before it starts happening, Doctor Evil had stolen Austin Powers' mojo, so he couldn't. Uh, we do get a flashback where Doctor Evil's new assassin, which we learn his name is Fat Bastard, went undercover to be one of Austin's security, and then you see him stealing the mojo. A little bit after that, um, Austin and Basil, Austin Powers gets a car to go back in time. That's his time machine. And he's going back in the 60s to get his mojo. So he gets in the time machine, and this car just randomly shows up into um, at a party in the 60s. Um, Everyone in the crowd's freaking out because it's Austin Powers, blah, 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 whatever. The song American Woman comes on, and here we get our first glimpse of the woman behind Austin Powers in that picture on my screen of Felicity Shagwell. Um, she starts dancing, and then Austin Powers is dancing with a girl named Robin. And then Felicity comes and tells Austin that she's secretly one of Dr. Evil's spies. And she walks away. So Austin goes back to dance with her, and then he looks right into Robin's eye and sees the assassin with a knife behind him. So he whips Robin around, and she gets stabbed in the back by the knife. And then she's like, "Oh, we're gonna kill you, Powers." And then he drops her on the ground, and then the assassin picks up a machine gun and starts shooting. So Austin Powers picks Robin back up, uses her as a shield. She gets shot like 20 times in the back. Um, and then he throws her back on the ground. And then she's still not dying. And then she's like, yells at the assassin, use the bazooka this time. So he uses the bazooka, he shoots, Austin Powers grabs her, uses her as a shield again, and they get blasted through the window behind. And they're now falling to their death side by side. And then she starts yelling, "Oh, the fall will kill us both, Powers!" And then he just grabs her body, moves her in front of him, and she lands um, he lands on her. And then, yeah, they both aren't dead after this still. And then the assassin has a gun and starts shooting down. Here we get Felicity that shows up with a car that's like detailed as the American flag, and she saves Austin. We do get a little car chase scene here a few minutes afterwards, and they're getting chased by Fez, which is played by Will Ferrell, and he catches up to them. They have their altercation, and as he's telling them who's behind the plan and who sent him and blah blah blah, we see Mini-Me being pushed in a stroller by Frawn, I think her name is, and he shoots a tranquilizer dart into Fez, and Fez falls off a cliff. In the next scene, we get Fat Bastard delivering the mojo to Doctor Evil, and Mini-Me gives him the briefcase full of money. And then Fat Bastard says he wants to eat Mini-Me and chases him around for a little bit. Fat Bastard then tells Doctor Evil he can keep the money as he gives him Mini-Me so he can eat him. And then he keeps going on like this, and then all of a sudden he sings, "I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, ribs. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, ribs. Chili's baby back ribs." which is like one of my favorite parts of this movie. Um, he leaves, and then Doctor Evils drinks some of the mojo, and then he gets super sexual with Fran, and then they end up having sex. We now have a little montage of Austin and Felicity going to the town and having fun teasing a royal guard. Um, After a while, they go back to the hotel room, and here's where they drink, and Felicity gets drunk, and Austin um, gets upset with Felicity because she's trying to sleep with him, and she doesn't realize he lost his mojo, so he can't. Um, so he leaves out of the room and goes somewhere. Felicity gets a call from Basil, or an email, I should say. She has to track down Fat Bastard and implant a GPS on him. So she goes to Fat Bastard's room, and we see them lying in bed after having sex. And he turns around all greased up, eating chicken or turkey, or it was disgusting. And he turns, she takes the GPS, shoves it up his butthole, and yeah, that's how that scene ends. Later on, we have Felicity and Austin going to track the GPS, and Fat Bastard had pooped it out into a toilet, and then they decide to take a stool sample of the poop. Um, the next scene is them analyzing the poop, and Austin's not paying attention. There's the stool sample, and there's a coffee pot, and he goes to grab the coffee pot, and he grabs the stool sample, pours it in his cup, and then he's like, "Oh, this coffee smells like shit." And then Basil's like, "Yeah, because it is shit." And then he takes a big drink. Everyone gets disgusted by it. Austin Powers never realizes it. After this, we get a scene where the president contacts Doctor Evil. Doctor Evil says he's going to fulfill his plan and and they use a bunch of '90s jokes, but no one gets because they're only in the '60s. And then he asks for money, obviously. We now go to a further scene where Austin and Felicity they found Doctor Evil's base, and they scuba dive and get there, and they have a bikini scene where they're wearing the same bikini for some reason. They do have a tent set up near Doctor Evil's lair, and we get a funny scene where they're in a tent with a light on, and then the shadow is casting something and showing something completely different. So we have Austin Powers on his hands and knees and looking at a map, and then we have Felicity beside him, reaching and grabbing stuff out of a bag, and it looks like she's just pulling stuff out of his butt. There's a rope, there's a mouse or a gerbil, there's an umbrella at one point. A smoke grenade goes off, so it looks like he's farting all over the place, and then they get captured. We then get Doctor Evil and Mini Me going into a spaceship to bring the laser beam up to the moon and Doctor Evil's moon base. Here we get jokes. Um, was it in the first movie? Anyways, yeah, we get a bunch of jokes about how the rocket that they're in looks like a penis and two balls. We now go to Austin and Felicity. They're locked up in a room, and there's like a grate opening up, and there's lava underneath, and Austin's on one side, Felicity's on the other. They need to get out, and no, give me a second. Then yeah, after that we get Austin and Felicity in Doctor Evil's base. Um, They're trying to find Doctor Evil. Felicity goes off on her own. Then we get Autsin here fighting Mini Me, which is a funny scene because Mini Me's kicking his butt, and then Mini Me, there's a hole in Austin's suit. Mini Me crawls in the hole, and then Austin Powers traps him where his butt is, and there just so happens to be right beside where they fought a hole that if you press the eject button, it's like you pooped and then it just shoots into space. So Austin sits there, ejects Mini Me into space, and then you just see him flying away in the background. Austin gets to Doctor Evil, and Doctor Evil gives him an ultimatum to save the world or save his girl. He decides to save the world, and when he does, Felicity dies. Doctor Evil's goal is to escape, and Austin tells him, "Hey," he tells Austin, "Hey, you could just go to the past and save the girl." Austin runs back, goes to the time machine, goes back to 10 minutes ago, and now there's two Austins. So one Austin saves the world, and then the other Austin saves the girl. Um, and then we get Doctor Evil throwing Austin Powers Mojo up in the air, and the two Austins go to grab it. They bump into each other. It falls on the ground and breaks. Uh, Doctor Evil escapes in his giant penis rocket, and Austin and Powers escape, going back to 1999. They're in their hotel room at this point. Fat bastard breaks in and surprises them with a gun. Um, they make fun of his weight and they ask him if he's happy, and then he goes on this whole spiel of how he's unhappy because he eats, and he eats because he's unhappy, and I totally get that, being a fat man myself. Um, then after his sad spiel, he farts. Uh, then Felicity kicks him in the balls. He falls to the ground, and then she presses a button that says "Do not press," and then it happens to be a party button, which everyone comes out. They're dancing. The music's going on, and then yeah, the movie ends with a shot of Doctor Evil and Mini Me and his penis rocket flying, and then Doctor Evil just swears revenge on Austin Powers. So yeah, that's the second movie of Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. Um, I do like this one a lot better than the first one. I'll have to say that. Um, I do give it a solid like 7.5 out of 10. My favorite one of the trilogy is going to be the next one that I'm going to be reviewing next week. Um, just a classic movie. If you lived in the 90s, I'm 100%, actually, no, 95% sure you probably watched these movies. They're fun little comedy movies. Um, I wouldn't say they're like kid appropriate these days because a lot of parents are now like anti. There's a lot of dirty humor. I'll just put it that way. Um, but yeah, I'll leave this video here. Please leave a like down below, right there. Please leave a comment. I do reply to all of them. Let me know your opinions on this movie. If you've watched it, also the reasons why you like it, or why you haven't watched it, or why you don't like it, or whatever. I'll reply to them. Right there. Press the subscribe button if you haven't already. I do have some cool things coming up. And yeah, I'll just leave this video here. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.